It's just Miguel wants to say Miguel there. It's in the middle of the room.
Hi, good morning. Sorry that I didn't go there.
That's okay.
I'm a little bit. Well, I'm going to be a little bit provocative, and I must say that these questions are there for ages, and it's nothing new that comes out. There's nothing really new that comes out, I think so, from the fact that we are discussing here a certain kind of art. The very classical and old-fashioned, maybe, artist called Bruce Nauman just said in the beginning of the 60s, was saying that if you are in a studio and you are not a painter, and if you just sit around and if you call yourself an artist, then what you do is art. And this is the main point. This is the main definition for me about art. And of course, there is this problem if you go from the art museum to the science museum. And this is a problem about legitimation. That is the first thing that, of course, many people are looking for. And they are looking from a kind of legitimation that encompasses not only the speculative art world, but also other things. And so I really feel inspired by some of the words that Antonio said, Antonio's work, but I really would appreciate if he wouldn't bring a moral stance to his discourse, because his discourse is mainly based about a moralistic point of view about good and bad guys, and I don't think it's necessary, because your conceptual networking is so strong that it doesn't need this moralistic stance. There are not only bad guys in the art world and good guys in the post-contemporary field. So I think it's not necessary. You make your point brilliantly, and if you see, for instance, what's going on with technology, that's where most of the capitalistic contemporary culture makes its stance. It's so, don't go that way, because I think it's really dangerous. I just want to say also, or just to comment on a project that I was lucky enough to work with an artist that I think is a really post-contemporary artist called Anthony Abad, and he has an ongoing project. He could be a very well-established, classical artist, but some years ago, he really decided to make a move into a, let's say, unknown field, which is a field, let's say on a negative stance. What it's not an object creating world. So, but he decided that he wants to be an artist still, and so he decided to use mainly the internet as a vehicle for his propositions, and also some kind of technology based exhibitions. And he's doing a project mainly with mobile phones for a few years, where he distributes mobile phones to different communities, like taxi drivers in Mexico, prostitutes in Madrid, gypsies in Leon. Now he has an ongoing project with motoboys in São Paulo, which are these guys who run very fast to deliver things, and that they have a lot of incidents, of course. And in Barcelona, I worked with him, and we did a project with disabled people. And so it was like a real-time mapping out of difficulties that disabled people have in the city. So in the exhibition space, there was a huge map of Barcelona where in real time people will comment on difficulties in going to a building or entering an exhibition space or going to a toilet or whatever. But there is also a very poetic side to the project, which is you can give the ability of each person to create his own narrative. So we don't, you don't have a mediated narrative as usual. If this prostitute in the website writes about dawn and about loneliness, it's a very interesting perspective, and this empowerment of people who normally don't have any kind of basis to create his or her own narrative is for me very interesting. As to the rest, I must say that I was in the opening of Laboral in Gijón, and somehow I must be an old-fashioned guy and very conservative, but I was amazed by a piece by Robert Rauschenberg in the 70s. This performance he does with tennis, where people are playing tennis and it gets dark and so on. And most of the new contemporary work was very, very disappointing to me. And I think that the fact that many people working in this field still don't know or don't have the ability to go beyond the fascination of the field they are working with. It's too huge a model that the kind of dialogue is always tends always to be very erratic towards science or towards technology, and this is what I regret. I regret that in this kind of projects there isn't. I don't know. I feel that there is still a long way to go, and I remember, hearing António Cerveira Pinto 15 years ago in Serralves, talking enthusiastically, of course, as he usually does, about the internet. And we all know what a great disappointment sometimes in terms of conceptual framework that was going on, the disappointments that we have in this period, and also the great hopes that we had on the web as a production platform for new artistic projects, how still there are so many doubts. And this is my question: why is it taking so long, maybe, and why is it still so ghetto? It's a kind of ghetto, and we feel it. And this is the problem. This is the problem that sometimes. It's my perception that it goes on a little bit like the university world. Everybody feels in contemporary society that university is a kind of ghetto. At least here in Portugal, it's not a very visible institution, and I fear that this world also gets some very ghettoized. I don't know.
I think you've been seeing the wrong project. Sorry, Derek, please.
I think I've completely forgotten what I was going to say, but I think the interesting thing that you mentioned Rauschenberg, I think it's open score you're talking about, isn't it? The kind of tennis, which was of course an art technology collaboration. It was Bell Labs Experiments in Art and Technology, Billy Kluver thing. But I always think the idea of an open score is really interesting. It's just thinking, can you have an open score? In fact, you're describing compositional manuals for work. I'll come back to the point. The other thing I wanted to say was, it sounds like it's Duchamp's fault. This whole thing. But I think one of the things that I think I mentioned an infrathin foundation, which is another definition for if. Earlier, and of course the infrathin is a kind of undefinable. Duchamp said it was, you can't